Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Kyra Schaefer here. As You Wish Publishing and asyouwishpublishing.com. I am so excited that you are joining us today. I got on my Goonies shirt. I'm feeling rebellious. I hope you're all having a great day just before Thanksgiving. And I have a fabulous guest with me today who you are going to love. And you probably already know. All right. Her name is Melissa Corder. She's a best-selling author, intuitive coach, and clinical hypnotherapist. My girl. She helps women overcome money and visibility blocks with evidence-based and spiritual approaches. She guides entrepreneurs to manifest increased levels of financial and emotional success with her heightened intuition. Melissa mentors entrepreneurs to hone their message and gifts while activating potential. She feels we're here to live a legacy, not just leave one behind. I love that. I love that sentence. Melissa builds business with magic, ritual, and strategy, weaving joy into the talents our souls came to express. She's the founder of Wild Woman Inc., a sacred online gathering space and marketplace for women who knows her magic, for the woman who knows her magic, and seeks to celebrate it with her conscious, collaborative women, with other conscious, collaborative women. I can read. I know I can. And you can reach her at melissacorder.com. So please help me welcome Melissa.
Hello. Woo! So much fun. You were amazing. I love this.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that great? You wrote it.
That part, but nobody says it like you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. So guys, man, I'm telling you, we got some good stuff for you today. We got some business to attend to. All right. So Melissa, you are an expert helping people to overcome blocks, overcome challenges in multiple facets. But we're looking today at business owners, spiritual business owners, primarily. Yeah. So when we talk, and I listened to your interview with Ellen earlier today, and it was just so fun. You girls are just absolutely amazing. But one of the things that I noticed was you were talking about that clunky shift from being like in this intuitive, spiritual, like out here thing to, or an internal thing too, to going, hey, by the way, pay me, and having a business around this. So I have a feeling some good things are going to come from this conversation because I've been wanting to say things, but I'm so happy you're here with me for that. Just want to give a shout out to Juliana Mello. Hi, girl. So glad you're with us. Melissa, tell me about that experience that people have and some ways that they can maybe move through it or overcome that challenge.
Sure. I love this topic because I come across it all the time. I'm sure you see this all the time too in your work where people are like, I have this message or this dream and I want to do this and, put my story into a book or into a tangible item. And then when it comes to like selling or promoting or sharing that in a step like beyond just their personal use, there's a whole other set of things that kind of engage and kick in. And usually what I find for people is, especially in the personal development, spiritual world of things, there's a lot entangled emotionally with their beliefs about their skills, their gifts, their talents, charging for it, setting a value to that, pricing it. And so they entangle money with their gifts and their value, and it gets them all tripped up. So that's one way I see it show up for people. Another is they're not really sure. They're kind of like half in, half out. Like, can I really do this? Am I able to have a sustainable business? Can I make money doing the thing I love to do or the thing that I really want to invest in when it comes to my passion, my joy, my gifts? And they struggle or sort of flounder in that. because they're not quite committed to it. Maybe they don't know what the path looks like just yet. So there's a whole lot of unknowns in this process, I feel. And what I've learned along the way is that, well, first of all, it's not a straight line for any of us. It looks like a completely messy, chaotic experience for us. Enjoyable, even though it can be messy and chaotic, and so worth every second of it. It's like that whole thing of, have you ever heard that saying before? Like an entrepreneur will work 120 hours for themselves to avoid working for somebody.
I will.
Me too.
Absolutely, hands down, I will.
Yes. I think part of that is for those that have just crossed this hurdle where we don't necessarily have a lack of issues or obstacles or problems anymore. But I feel like we've built enough confidence in ourselves and evidence of things working that the entrepreneurial journey feels very different. When you're first stepping out of a job or a career or something where you had this consistent paycheck, week to week or bi-weekly or whatever it was, and not knowing what's going to happen, there's something that happens in the back of your mind where we kick into fear because all of a sudden that safety net doesn't feel like it's there. And I feel like that trips people up too. So those couple things I see happen a lot. And for each person, it's a little different shift, I would say, in what they can do to start to go all in. But I really feel like it begins with a conscious decision to say, I can do this. I'm going to do this. I'm willing, and I'm going to make this happen.
That's huge, because that's one of the biggest things, to go all in. When I was working, I lived in Asheville. So it was about 20 years ago. And I had gotten my Reiki certification. I was like, I will heal everyone, and the world will come to me, and they will want me to heal them, because I am energetically attuned to being the one to heal all of them. Right. So I get to Asheville. Have the worst year of my life, right? Because I didn't go to heal anyone. I went to heal myself. Yeah. Didn't know that. And I got by, I got by on, I could do like maybe 2 or 3, sessions a week. That was about $300. So then I could or so, and then I would piecemeal some little part-time jobs and things like that, just to make ends meet. And then, that was kind of enough, to get through the weeks, and it was more or less a business, but I had to be all in. So I needed that overconfidence really to get into it, because that feeling, it was still, even though it sounds like grandiose or whatever, the feeling underneath it all was really pure. Yeah. And it really had positive intention. And that's the thing that kept driving me, for the weeks that no one came in, or people canceled, or people asked me this question: why do you charge for this? Aren't you doing God's work? Isn't healing free? And I'm like, yeah, healing's free, but my time isn't. you know? So you're paying for my time. You can show up and do whatever you want, but I'm going to, so that's kind of an interesting thing. But yes, that being all in piece, was there a time where you were like, okay, what was your moment where you go, I need to be all in on this thing? I've been kind of putting it together a little bit, because you were a photographer, an expert photographer for a long time. So when did you switch over and you say, okay, enough's enough, I'm doing this?
It's really interesting, because I've been doing coaching, readings, and like the work that I do since I was 14 years old, but I wasn't all in. I was not all in. It was exactly what you just described. That was my life with readings. When somebody would pay me, I would actually be surprised and be like, oh, thank you, like shocked. And I'm like, well, this is certainly not a way to run a business when you're actually surprised somebody's handing you money, right? But my insecurity was so big. I didn't have the confidence. I honestly didn't trust myself yet. I was still learning my gifts. I was still really connecting to that. And even though they will continue to develop, I believe truly for the rest of my life, there was a tipping point. So for the first 15 years of that, I went through various stages of donations. You know, people would just give me donations, and I had a job on the side, and then I had a corporate job. And so it went into this tiny little when I could fit it in, but there was always a back and forth. I felt like for so many years, there was always this feeling of, I can't do that or pursue it because it's not in a place that's sustainable at all. I couldn't even accept money. I had to put little boxes out for people to put money in, or I had all these random weird tricks to like get around my stuff, my insecurities. And it wasn't until I was a hypnotherapist, I was doing massage therapy and all these different things that my gifts really started to flourish. And that was my first entrepreneurial job or business where I had some consistency. And then what happened is with the consistency came a level of burnout, because I was a massage therapist, but I was reading people's bodies. I was reading their energy. And so while I was working on them, I'm telling them things like stories and all these things. And that's what led me to the hypnosis piece. But anyway, that was the first experience of really having X amount of people steady, starting to see how money could be not necessarily exactly counted on still, because it wasn't guaranteed. But when you have X amount of people coming in 3 times a week, 4 days a week, whatever it is, you start to build up evidence of, okay, and you know, this is what this can look like. And then every week I was starting to have a consistent dollar amount that would show up. But then I was exhausted, miserable, tired, hated it. And so part of me was like, if this is what it means to be all in, I don't want this. So I quit. I was still doing readings on the side and hypnosis stuff, but had a corporate job. And that's when I leaned into the photography more. It was always a hobby, but I wanted something that was easier on my body. And to be honest with you, the intuitive work I was doing, even though I was really good at it, I didn't know how to manage my boundaries or my energy. So I kind of kept a little distance with that as well. And that's when I picked up the camera, started doing that work. Photography taught me how to run my business. That was the one that really still wasn't all in, but it did teach me how to have contracts. It taught me how to put things in place that could support me to have a foundation underneath me in my business. So that was about 7 years ago. 7 years ago when I was in that. And then though I haven't done it in a few years as far as like professionally for clients, you know, that kind of an engagement, you know, type situation or whatever, but it taught me so much. And so then when I learned those things, I saw that I could apply it to the work I really wanted to do with people, the hypnosis, reading them, supporting them, helping them to bring more magic into their lives and into their businesses. Like that's when I started to come alive in my own world, in my own work. So going all in didn't happen until almost a year ago last month. It's kind of crazy to say. I've been an entrepreneur, like I said, for over 20 years, but it wasn't until a year ago that I woke up. I woke up because I was going through this burnout and all this stuff was going on. And I just heard it in my head. And it was, Melissa, you are not all in. You're not all in. And I was kind of like, what? You know, started fighting my intuition. What do you mean I'm not all in? I'm doing this and I'm struggling and it's so hard and this and that and all these. I had all these reasons and excuses of why I was all in. And when I sat with it, I went, no, I've had a foot in both worlds. I'd have a foot in the worst case scenario. If this doesn't work out for me, what will I do? And having that showed me I wasn't all in. So it was a year ago, a little over a year ago, I dove in and my whole world transformed from that point.
That's awesome. That is awesome. It is a different ball game because it's if there's a sacrifice, there's no love, right? And you are sacrificing your mental, emotional, physical health in a burnout. scenario. So to me, that's sacrifice. There's not love in that. That's not unconditional. That's not unconditionally loving ourselves. That's saying I have to give up something, my mental, emotional, physical health, in order to get something else. So it's just trading in a way. And so that's not helping anyone, although I will say that, I went through a massive amount of burnout when I was doing hypnosis for clients, because we came to Arizona, we opened up our hypnosis clinic. And it was, Ty was seeing 30 clients a week. I was seeing 20 clients. No, I was seeing 30 clients a week. Ty was seeing 40 clients a week or so. And as you know, somebody who works with clients, it's exhausting because it's not like, okay, I'm just going to sit at a desk or maybe working on a railroad, the physical endurance, and the mental endurance and the mental fatigue. But I don't have any judgment about railroads, but do you know what I'm saying? So, but an hour of being intently in their world, and then the next hour you go and you do it with someone else. Yeah. And then someone else and someone else. And as a hypnotist, and I know you can attest to this, many times we're the last stop on the train. I don't know what I've got going on with trains today. Maybe I need to go get on a train. But we're the last stop on the train. They've gone to psychologists. They've gone to psychiatrists. They have taken all the medications. They have done, they've tried to change their diet. They've tried all these things. And they're like, okay, well, I guess I'll try hypnosis and it'll be my last ditch effort. Yeah. And so they're tired. They're exhausted from their pain and emotional distress. They have so many things have fallen apart in their lives. And they're coming to you just feeling at the end of their tether. And after 7 years of that, I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it, even though I did feel completely all in, like you were saying. But at the same time, I think we have to know when it's time to let something go too. Right. So it's like, when we're getting those signals, by our body going, this doesn't feel right. Yeah. Or by our mind or emotional state saying, something's wrong here. Or, wow, I'm drinking a lot more. Or, wow, I'm eating out every single night. Or, wow, I'm not getting to sleep until midnight and waking up again at 6 a.m. I'm never feel any downtime. And even when I get a chance to relax, I'm thinking about my clients, right? There's just so many nuances to burnout. And when it comes to business, because you also get caught in that trap. So let's say we've moved past this idea of accepting money. Right. We made amazing money. We made fantastic money, right? More money than we knew what to do with. We used most of it to self-soothe, to get through to the next day. Yeah. And so, it's knowing that I feel like even just in this last almost 20 minutes, I feel like we've naturally progressed all the way to from accepting money to burnout. Right. And you release your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like it's what you said. Like a lot of times we feel like there's this sacrifice that we have to make. Either, there's also that saying of like, when you start a business, you have more time than you have money. And then when you have more money, you have less time. And there's always this sense of like, well, excuse my language, but like, shit, where does that leave me then? Like, you know what I mean? Totally. I'm either going to have a lot of money, but feel like garbage, or none and not feel so good either and not know, you know what I mean? There's always this like thing. And so that actually was something that I made another decision about. And that other decision was, this gets to be way easier than I'm making it out to be, which was a total subconscious mental thing that I was doing. And then the second part was, and it can be more magical than I'm making it out to be. This whole idea of business felt so rigid, and it was hard and difficult and challenging. And even though all the good stuff was happening too, I remember the first time I hit 6 figures for the year in my business. And it was right before my burnout. It was right. Actually, here's a little funny short story that I think is going to be helpful for people, because I do a lot of work when it comes to money and our nervous system and reprogramming and all this stuff. It was in September of last year that I decided to run a QuickBooks report. Or no, it was the year. This was not last year. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I went to run this QuickBooks report because I was just curious. Like I stay on top of my money and my income and the things I'm doing and all that good stuff. And I track all of it, but I usually run a report around November, December for when I'm preparing tax things and whatever. But for some reason I had a hit to do this in September. And when I did it, I expected to see a certain dollar amount because I thought I was pretty dialed in to my finances and what I was doing. And I was busy and I was tired and all of the things we're talking about. And when I opened up QuickBooks and I ran that report, it was more than double what I expected to see. And so a part of me went into, oh my gosh, this is amazing that I financially made more than what I expected. And another part of me went into a complete shame cycle of, how could I not see this or know this? How did I miss this? Where did it go? What did I do with it? Right? Like all of these things. And then I had these other thoughts of, I must not be a responsible business owner. I must not be good at this. I must suck at this whole thing that I'm doing. And I went into this entire thing and it tripped out my nervous system in such a crazy way that I almost shut my business down, believe it or not. My stuff got so big and in my face, all my subconscious beliefs and thoughts and feelings and feeling inadequate and insecure, all the things that were already within me that I hadn't quite dealt with to the degree I thought I had, came up in a reflection of seeing that dollar amount. And that taught me so much about how we approach business, how we approach, charging people, how we approach the amount of energy that comes in and out, which is exactly the burnout conversation too, because think about like all those clients and one thing I just want to add real quick into what you were saying also is like, with the hypnosis work, and I know you do this too, like we also have another component to that work, which is our intuition. And so now we're adding this extra layer of awareness and insight and sensory information and guidance and intuitive impulses and hits and nudges and leads and all of the things. We are dialed into someone's nervous system when that's happening. And that is very taxing on the adrenal glands and other parts of the body and the mind and all this stuff. And I will never change a second of it because I love this work so much. And we have to account for that. So I think that's important to talk about for people that I would like to say, bring intuition into it. Part of me is like, well, we don't really not bring intuition into anything we're doing because it's built in. But for people that are doing intuitive work too, it's more the reason to know your value and your worth and to be all in, because you're going to be using a lot more of your system than what you might recognize in the work that you're doing. And that's important.
Yeah. And there does have to be an equal energy exchange. What I have found in everything that I've ever charged anybody for, whether it's been publishing or whether it's been hypnosis or Reiki or intuitive readings that I've done a little bit of in the past. Actually, it's all intuitive reading, really.
Right.
You're totally right on with that because we're reading everybody's energy and
right.
But every single thing, anytime I charge less than my value, two things happen. The first thing was I'll never charge that low again.
Right.
Fuck that. I mean, I can be really spiritual, but no. There has to be an equal energy. Otherwise, I get resentful.
Right.
Or I stop doing it completely,
yeah.
which doesn't really help anyone.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, well then it doesn't take much evidence for me. And this is kind of the good side and the bad side of being an INFJ. If y'all look that up, Myers-Briggs, we're like, no one is like us, unfortunately. We're very lonely. But one of the things is that we get a hint of evidence of it not working out, and we'll just go, oh, well, I can follow that all the way down to the end of the train line. I'll follow it all the way down the end of the line in my intuition or in the projection of the future. And I'll say, that won't work.
Yep.
Instead of going, how can it? And do I like it? Am I just not charging my value? And so, making some of those questions a priority can be really good. So I think a first key for me, and for those of you listening, and I just want to give a shout out to Rena Escalante here. She was my guest last week. I love you, Rena. She's starting her business as a Reiki practitioner, so an energy practitioner. She's phenomenal. She's new, but she's phenomenal, unbelievably good. She's very tapped in to her gifts, and so I think this is great information for her as well. But this piece I think has been really helpful for me in that if I feel resentment, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Instead, I say, okay, so that was a test run. Right. That was a nice little test run. And I got a ton of information back from that. How can I do it faster, smarter, charge more, change the offering, whatever, to accommodate a better feeling? There's a fantastic gal out there who does a lot with spiritual business owners. And she said, if you take two pieces of paper, and you write on one piece of paper a, kind of lowballed amount of, one of ours would probably be something like donation.
Yep. Freebie.
Tell you, people will give you $5.
Yeah.
All right. And so, and you've given your heart, soul, and being to spending an hour of time with them, and they give you $5, and you're like, oh, I did it to myself. Yeah. But take that piece of paper, take the other piece of paper that is just way high. It's very uncomfortable for you. If it's $300 a session or whatever, and take the two pieces of paper, put one on the floor on either side of you, and then stand up and just let your body kind of be a human pendulum. And, ask yourself, this is what I feel is the best price for me to offer people. And it might be a range. If you want to do something like that, that's fine. I think that's a good place, kind of a good place to start for people. You go from donation to you do a sliding scale, to you do a static amount, to you do package amounts. I think is kind of a natural progression for a lot of people doing things for pay. But use yourself as a human kind of pendulum and just see where does it feel the best. And then wherever you kind of land, you kind of make a guesstimate of how much that is. And then because there's a match energetically between what you're charging and what you feel is good, then there won't be really any qualms for people. There won't be any objections that come up because there's an energetic match to you and that person. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I love that.
I love that. In fact, I do a very similar exercise. I love the paper. I haven't tried that part of it. But what I'll do is I write it down in front of me, and I imagine dropping those dollar amounts through my crown. And so I just imagine them floating through my crown. So like $87, and I would sit with that. And then I go high, $1,297. I might go between a range, like you just said, because it gives you a nice, very clear contrast between the two, super low, super high, and then usually somewhere in there. The other thing I find is it's often our first hit, the first number you wrote down or you thought of or you felt into. It's usually that very first one, but we second guess it. And the other thing too, the last thing I just want to say on that popped into my head, Kyra, is when you were saying how there's not necessarily the resistance or the qualms or I totally agree. And I think what's helpful to add on to that is when you're speaking to the right audience, because if you are not speaking to your people and you're in total alignment for what you're charging, you might not get what you're trying to charge or putting out there, not because you're doing anything wrong and not because it's out of alignment. But I had this issue where there was a big disconnect between my target market audience of who I thought my people were and who they actually were. And so in my mind, in my messaging and in everything, I was sharing one way, but I was still showing up in front of people that were, and this isn't a judgment. It's not about they weren't there or it wasn't a good fit for them. It was just a difference, like you said, in that vibrational frequency. And so I hadn't yet got in front of the new aligned audience of people yet. And so that kind of caused a little bit of like, what's going on here? So I just wanted to add that because I feel like everything you said, I love. And sometimes people get a little lost in that because they do have the right price points, but maybe there's just a new segment of people that they have to call in to share that with. Does that make sense to say it that way?
I mean, yeah, that makes total sense. I think that is so interesting. And I think that so when my confidence started to raise when it came around pricing and things like that, and my husband did a really cool thing, and he's developed a whole intake system. And because we were really, the way we got popular and we got inundated was we did a Groupon, and almost crushed us. We did it, and we sold 400 Groupons in a matter of an hour when it first went live. And it was like, oh, I think people want this. And it's like, maybe. And many of them just wanted a quick fix. Some of them wanted just to buy the coupon just to have it. I don't think they ever did anything with it. And then, to be completely very, very impolite here, and unapologetically, we got a lot of duds. We got a lot of tire kickers. We got a lot of people coming in who just were not even really willing to see themselves enough to know. They just knew they were in pain or they were in discomfort.
Right.
And they thought this will be the quick fix. And they would come in, and one of the first things they would say would be, are you going to fix me? That was number one. Number two was, are you, some of them would put their hands across their chest and did, what are you going to do for me? There was no accountability, no taking responsibility. And some of them I would wow, we would wow them. I would say we, because sometimes there's nothing going on here. It's all, but we would wow them, and they would be like, oh, I didn't realize how bad I felt until I started feeling a little bit better.
Right.
And so, but we were still losing sales, and like no one was, and it was because of me. It really was. It was because of the feeling I had to switch from I am into you. I am into you. I am into your energy field. I am into your, I'm keyed in to, okay, let's pay money now,
Right.
and they were here for a coupon deal. Right.
Yeah.
So it was that flip. And so what I did and what Todd did to develop it was I had, we did an intake. We did a 20-minute, intake or 30-minute intake, and we would help them see themselves better. We would do, and you guys who might know NLP as an outcome model. So we would help them see that there was really an issue here underneath it all. If there wasn't, they could just, have a relaxing, peaceful time and hang out and be on your way. That was totally fine. And then we would talk about some of the things that they would need, and then we would send them away so we could figure out what it was that they needed and how we could show up for them. And then they would come back, we would do the session, and then I would tell them, and there would be this moment where it's like, okay, now we're going to start looking at what this really entails for you and why this is necessary. And then we would look at, here are different packages. This is where I feel like we can get. This is where we can move the needle. This is how much time we need together to move the needle. And it became more of the more I practiced it, the easier it became. Mm-hmm. And it didn't feel so disjointed anymore. Yeah. It was just kind of like, okay, we're going to, this is a part of it. This is a part of the energy. This is a part of the healing, because now I'm asking you to take responsibility in a very physical form. You know? And so when you felt, did you have that feeling when you were working, like as you were starting out or in different times where you had that feeling of, oh, this feels really disjointed and bad?
Yeah.
How did you get through that?
Yep. I actually just had to take the emotion out of it and look at it like this is a transaction. Yes, there's value. Yes, there's an exchange of energy, but I'm projecting on this and making it something other than it is. If they say yes, they say yes. If they say no, they say no. If they say yes, it doesn't mean anything about me. If they say no, it doesn't mean anything about me. And I had to neutralize money and look at it as not just the exchange we talk about where it's like, I give you this and you give me that. Absolutely. But the honor, the value, the sacredness of it. And it's like a paradox because at the same time, taking all emotion out of it, because it is a transaction. My energy, my passion, my talents that go into the actual service I deliver, that's where my emotion comes in. That's where my intention, my integrity, all the things integrity's in the money piece too, but you know what I mean? It's more fueled by that connection. Whereas the money exchange part, I had to neutralize that so that I didn't have all these stories about it in my head and what it meant to have it or not have it. And all of that. I had to really, really dig into it. I feel like that changed the first time. So I had a story just like yours where like you didn't tell the story, but you mentioned, having a resentment sometimes for if we're not charging enough or something happens. And I had a nightmare situation. Nightmare. I didn't do a Groupon, but it was very similar. It was a deal I offered. And I gave someone, it was when I was a photographer, but I so got the message. I charged, it was $150 and they got 4 pictures and they got like an hour of my time. And other people, just to put it in reference, were charging $500 for the same kind of package, but I was new. So I was taking into account that. And I was trying to also not set an expectation for people. I was letting them know I'm new at this. This is new for me. And I would, so anyway, I put that out there. And I did a couple of them and they went okay. It was a little rocky. I was figuring things out, but it went okay. And then I had this woman. Oh, this woman. Let's just say she was supposed to get an hour of my time and 4 pictures. Somehow, when it was over, I probably spent 20 hours with this woman. She complained every step of the way. She complained about everything I couldn't fix. These were things that I couldn't fix. Like when you're in service, if you can do better, we do better. If we can adjust something, if we can do better customer service, right? There was nothing I could do about the shape of her neck and that she without it looking like a whole other person. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not willing to do that with Photoshop. Not going to happen. And anyway, what happened is I wanted to be, and this was a big lesson, I wanted to be nice. And so I met her at a Starbucks to look at the pictures when everybody else got an email link. Why did I go there? I don't know, but I did. Why did I spend 4 hours at her home photographing her in 20 different outfits when everybody else got to wear one thing and got 4 pictures? Like it was I felt intimidated by her. And so instead of holding my ground and being kind, I was nice. And that's a big rule for me now. If I find myself being nice, I'm likely people pleasing. If I'm being kind, I'm honoring, but I have some boundary there. So she taught me never again, and I never ever charged that price ever again. I never gave as much as I did that one time. I stopped doing things. So even though she was a nightmare and there was so much resentment and anger that I had, and it's like you said, I had it towards myself. I learned to take a journal and to write down every single thing that drove me nuts. I created a policy around it. So I upped my prices. I got a contract. I did all these things. And so everything I didn't like, she fixed in my business, which set a foundation in place. And I teach that to my clients now. I'm like, we get these nightmare people. They're not really a nightmare. I'm joking when I say that. They're angels in disguise because they're helping you figure things out that are out of alignment. They're a misalignment for you on some level. And if you don't listen to that misalignment and say, no, this isn't for me, or I'm going to pass, It's okay, but just know that misalignment's going to show up in this other form so that you can get it right. You can straighten it out. You can figure it out in your business. And so instead of beating ourselves up over it, it's like, what can we do to channel that into personal power for the next time? So that's, but that's what happened. It was a nightmare. I cried. I cried and I cried over her so bad.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yes. I love that the distinction between niceness and kindness.
Yeah.
Niceness is people pleasing. Kindness has boundaries.
That's right.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love the policy restructuring when you have been nice.
Right.
Because it's like, never again.
That's
you know,
and it only benefited the people that got to come after her. They felt safer in experiences with me because I wasn't so people pleasing and wishy-washy. And it realized how that translated to people not feeling safe in experiences. It's like if somebody says to you, like if you're like, I want to pay you for your time, your service, and they're like, oh, pay whatever you want. No, just tell me how much it is. Oh no, just whatever you want. I freaking hate that feeling in my body. I get so uncomfortable. I'm like, dude, just give me a price, really. Like, I'm happy to pay it. Don't put it on my shoulders, because now I feel like I'm taking on a part of your business that should be your business. So people think they're being nice by saying, oh, just pay what you can. You're not being nice. You're not taking responsibility. You're not holding your ground. You're not being a business owner. You're showing that there's some work there, which is okay. But that is the most uncomfortable feeling to me when somebody's just like, whatever you want. Because I don't know what to do with that. My mind likes to have these clear, distinct, like, it's this much or this much, whichever one, I love that. I don't like being confused in those things, because I would give them $20,000. They're amazing. And they might just be like, $50. Like, I don't know. But I think it's just something that makes me so uncomfortable. I feel like we do these weird things in business where we think we're doing something to help someone else, but what we're really doing is not showing up for ourselves because we're nervous or insecure or uncomfortable. And I've been there a million times over. So there's no judgment at all when I say this. It can be a hard thing until, like you said, you did it and it got easier sharing those packages and those things with people. But yeah, please just price your things and let people pay you for them.
Yes. Melissa, oh my gosh, like, this is phenomenal. And I like, you and me have always been like right there. I mean, just when we get to hang out and giggle together and, talk about nothing. And then when you're talking about something that is so real, I mean, this stuff is real. And it is not easy at first. And we have to take those steps that we were talking about kind of throughout this whole program, to just say yes to ourselves and say yes to our abundance and that kind of thing. That's part of it too. I mean, we're teaching people how to treat us. Number one. Number two is that if we have this energetic connection, or, we're telling the universe how to treat us too.
That's right.
We're telling our divine principle, we're telling our energetic system, we're telling everything in that ability to say, oh yeah, money is just energy, and we're allowing ourselves to receive energy. And if we don't allow ourselves to receive that energy, there will come a time when it breaks down. Yeah. And it may not be money. Like if you're doing a trade for some other service, I also highly do not suggest that ever. But it has to happen that way. And that's where you are in this process. Go for it. And you're just kind of in that practicing phase. That's fine. But ultimately, no trading. And one of the cool things, I've been so lucky to have really great mentors. And one of them said, you have to pay taxes when you trade with people, right? There is a dollar amount that still goes along with that. You still have to pay taxes on it. And I was like, oh, wait, I'm not trading anymore.
Right.
I don't need an extra chicken. like, no, I'm good. I'm good. And so, and we feel bad for people sometimes too. One of the best gifts I got was the other day. I was on Facebook and I was flipping around and I saw this thing where it said, okay, will you go, it says like 40 things that people said to try and get something for free on Craigslist or something like that.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And some of the things I've heard before when it comes to doing, why are you charging for this? I mean, isn't it just God's work? Or why would, and the angry responses too, like, oh, well, then you must not be worth anything if you're charging for this or whatever. And I've heard some of these things when I was at a period in my expansion, my growth, where I wasn't as confident. I was getting reflected back my lack of confidence in the people that were coming to me. And I think we were talking about that earlier. Your audience does up level with you.
Yeah.
As you shift and all the things that we've been talking about and you've been talking about so beautifully, when we shift, it's like, it might take a minute, but people will come with you. And they'll be like, oh, you're the one that I've been looking for, but I've been waiting for your self-confidence to increase.
Right. Yes.
I've been waiting for you.
Absolutely. And to see it, like you mentioned, the one that pops in my head, it's really ridiculous and funny, but I think it's perfect. It pops into my head because you mentioned a couple times now, like that story or belief that people can have about doing the work and it being God's work and receiving for that. And I think of things like that all the time where I'm like, I'll tell you what, I had a car accident about 5, 6, 7 years ago, somewhere in there, years ago. And I'll tell you what, that lawyer was a godsend. And it was like an angel in disguise. I had no problem with him taking his fee out of, like, I got a tiny, tiny settlement to cover my medical expenses and stuff. And just barely enough for the chiropractor and those things I needed. But it was a godsend. And I never once thought like, oh, I can't believe he's charging for this, and I laugh because like, I like Starbucks. I know I'm probably one of the, like, I'm a coffee brat. Like I am a brat when it comes to my coffee. If somebody's like, oh, there's a McDonald's on the corner, I'm like, psh, like I get that. I judge for coffee. I have no problem saying that. But anyway, so I like Starbucks. It's the closest thing to what I make at home with my fancy machine. And when I go there, I'll tell you what, there's some moments where I'm like, God was in that cup of coffee. Like that lady or that guy or that whoever was an angel in disguise and made this magical brew for me today. And so I so needed it. And so who are we to get to say when that, whatever you believe in, isn't moving through you and expressing itself in various forms? Why can't it be? Why does it have to only be a spiritual gift or practice that we use that as an excuse? And why is it that like a plumber can't be magical in what they do? Like I like some Harry Potter shit where they're moving things and doing some things and they're doing stuff and you're like, I don't know how you made that work, but you did. And I'm grateful that you knew how to do all that. And I'm gladly happy to pay you so that I don't have these leaky faucets or whatever going on anymore. Like, I see the divine in everything in that sense. And I feel like we use it as a cop out or an excuse. And it's really a cover for something else. It's usually covering up our inadequacy or insecurity. And like you mentioned, there can be anger and all these emotional responses from people when it comes to money, because it's just a mirror. It is just a mirror. One of the things one of my mentors said, I work with this coach, her name is Jen. She's incredible. And one of the things she's told me over and over again, we've been working together for about 6 months now. And she'll say, Melissa, if you're confused, your people will be confused. If you're clear, your people will be clear. She's like, we really want to believe our people are not idiots. Like she says it jokingly. But she's like, your people are smart. Let them be smart, which means focus on what you're doing. Do it well, price it right, get it out there, let people see it. They're smart. They're going to know if it's not for them. They're not going to participate if it's not for them. And if if they do need clarity, they'll ask, they'll ask you the questions or they'll whatever. But anyway, I felt guided to share that because I feel like a lot of times we can struggle with like, well, what do people want? And what do they want to experience? And the money and all these things. And it's like, well, what do you want? What feels good to you? Does that feel clear? That'll translate. And it's all work of the divine. I don't care if you're a painter, an artist. I don't care if you're a writer. I don't care if you're a plumber or a lawyer, apparently, like, working at a barista. It doesn't matter to me what you do, because that's not even who you are. It's just another expression of the divine to flow through you. And there's nothing wrong for you receiving for that, because it's how you're choosing to spend your time. And it's important.
I love it. Yeah. And just I mentioned in the beginning, it was you're not paying for my you're paying for my time.
That's right.
Because I'm telling you, time with me and time with Melissa is
straight magic.
and because it's true, and we're trained this way in hypnosis training and certifications and things like that, is that when we work with clients, we are tapped and tuned and turned on to that person, because we need to feel where the imbalances are in you. And so many times hypnotists go into hypnosis first. And so we're in a hypnotic state with our client, and I don't do hypnosis anymore, but just to demonstrate, we go into hypnosis first, and then we bring them with us, or we help kind of carry them. It's leading and following and future pacing and all these kind of crazy cool things that hypnotists do. But we are going into that space with you. Let me tell you, no cousin, uncle, best friend goes down this rabbit hole.
That's right.
No one does this to be so engaged. And I think that there comes some transference issues that can come up as a result. And transference is where the client then feels like you are their best friend, because you're going places with them that no one is trained to do.
That's right.
Honestly. They're just not trained.
Abilities and the things that are exposed in that space. And I bet you that one of the most common phrases you've probably ever heard, even though knowing, you don't do that anymore, but at that time you probably heard over and over again, was, I've never said that to anyone before.
Yes.
Never said that.
Thousands and thousands of times. Yes. Because they feel safe, because you're on this journey with them. To me, it's priceless. And I'm sure you have heard this too, Melissa. You don't charge enough. Right. You are worth thousands and thousands. This session was a $20,000 session.
Yes.
I've heard one of my old clients, she was like, you're worth $1,000 right now. I'm paying you $1,000. Yeah. And I would go, I shall accept that. Thank you. Right. That was a really weird moment. I'm going to tell you, when she was like, I'm paying you $1,000. And I was like, okay, so here's my account information. But my heart went, like, am I okay to receive this?
Right.
And even the next day I was like, maybe I should give it back.
Right. Did she change her mind? Am I going to get a
mind? Maybe she didn't really mean that. Yeah.
We assume that others have the same dialogue or thing going on in us that they have. And it's so interesting. Money is like, I never wanted to talk about money or deal with money because of my own beliefs about like, oh, it felt icky. We're not supposed to talk about it. It is my most favorite thing to talk about now, because it is such a beautiful teacher for us. And it shows so much of what's happening, not just in your nervous system and in your mind, but even your body and your breath and your bank account and your beliefs, like all the things. It's incredible what it holds. And it's not always what it seems. You know what I mean? It's rarely about the dollar amount, but it's so incredible, like what it can really teach us about ourselves and our own value and worth. And there is no dollar amount that we can attach to that, but it's just one of the beautiful ways that it can be reflected and shown in that. I think it's just such an important piece too of being on this planet and engaging in systems and real life experiences. Like, we can't avoid that. We want to learn how to embrace those things to make them work for us,
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, this is so good. This is so fun. Good. Every healer, every hypnotist, every chiropractor, everyone in the holistic business field needs to hear this. because it is so important. Even if you hear it now and then you don't engage in your internal conversation about it till later, you still, and even Suzanne Harmony is saying, hey, Suzanne girl, I love everything you're sharing. Thank you. This is divine timing, she's saying. So yeah, it's just such a fascinating topic. And it's one that is a big pitfall for most people who are wanting to transform not only their lives, but help transform the lives of others, and striking that balance. So I think this conversation was absolutely essential. I think it's advanced and 101,
Yeah, because every time you hit a new level, even when you're experienced and been in business for a long time, you hit a new layer of a new experience that can unfold and look completely different, like brand new territory. And then the more you work through it, you realize, oh my gosh, this is similar to what I went through 7 years ago. I just have a different vantage point now, and I'm more confident in who I am, and it's showing up a little differently, and there's different faces attached to it. And, it's kind of like that spiral idea of healing and growth and evolution. And we are meant to receive. If you just popped into my head, what you just said is I just had this weird thing come through, which was not weird. It's kind of cool, where like being all in. What would happen if you decided to segment or fragment other parts of yourself or your life? It wouldn't work if you decided, well, a piece of me is in and a piece of me isn't. It's like, well, I wonder what it would be like if my heart would beat sometimes and not others. I wonder what it would be like if I would let in a little bit of air into my lungs, but not really, because I don't know. I'm not trusting. I'm not sure what this is all going to look like. I need an out or a fallback plan or a safety net. Like, we don't operate in half-ass in the rest of our lives or in our physical bodies, right? But isn't it interesting that our mind is so creative? It wants to be like, well, maybe in this little area over here, we can be half in, half out, because the truth is we're probably just scared. We're probably just afraid. And that's okay. Like, it's that whole saying of like, it's okay to be scared, but don't stop. Don't stop. Kyra, I can't imagine what this world would be like if you decided that you weren't worth it, that you weren't good enough, that you weren't going to be all in. Like, look at all of the people that would have not had your light and your work and your support and your divinity and your guidance and your tools and all the things that you do, and bringing these things to life, their messages to life, and books and publishing and all. I mean, you do so many different pieces of it. And if you just decided like, I don't know if I can really make a difference. I don't think I'm ready for this. Like, there would be so many people that would be suffering right now or not having access to something greater within them. And I can say the same about like so many of the mentors and the teachers and the people I've just come across. I have actually become, it's so interesting. I had this thought come to me one day. I was thinking about a particular mentor, and we had a conversation about how she was afraid. And this was like 20, 30 years ago or whatever. And I had a little panic, a little anxiety in my body of like, oh my God, if she didn't, I can't imagine what my life would be like if she just didn't answer that call within her. I honestly can say with everything in my being, I don't know if I'd be on this planet right now if it weren't for her guidance 15 years ago. So that's pretty crazy to think that people every day, all the time, people are just sitting around going, I don't really know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. And like, you don't know who you are and the ripple of this world and where that's going to go. And so I don't know why I feel like I have to just keep saying like, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. It is scary sometimes, and it gets better, and it is magical too sometimes, and it'll get more magical. And there's some moments you're not going to know what the hell you're doing, but just remember the unknown is where all the magic comes from. So it's okay to walk into it, and it's okay to get better and improve and expand all of the talents you have and the services and the policies and all the stuff that'll come into place. You don't have to have it all today, but you do have to show up because we need you.
Yeah. I heard all of the compliments you gave to me.
That was the most important part.
Oh, good. That's what I was listening to.
You got it.
No, I'm teasing. But this is so good. I just love every bit of this conversation. Because there's a part of it with all of this, so it can feel very uncomfortable doing a business alone. So having a solopreneurship type of thing. And so we do rely on our mentors and peers to kind of let us know if we're going in the right direction, or if we're doing the right things or whatever. And your thinking and my thinking is very aligned. And I wish that I would have had someone telling me the things that we're talking about here when I was going through some of the kind of rough patches in my business. And I'm like, well, is burnout a thing? Because I'm just tuning in and giving and receiving some money. And, you know, I'm not, right? Am I, you know, and so, you know, just talking about this and going, no, there's a lot more going on here. So burnout is a real thing. And oftentimes that's why psychologists and psychiatrists, they're not necessarily career, 30, to 50 year kind of career, psychologists and psychiatrists. They get burned out really quickly, sometimes within the first 3 to 5 years. So, you know, this is all super real. And so if you're not getting that energy exchange, and you're not taking the time out for yourself, and you're not, in business is getting you bogged down and all this kind of stuff, it's okay to take a step back and go, hold on, what am I doing for me? How am I? And it's interesting. I was talking to Shanda, Trove, Transcendent Publishing, a good friend of both Melissa's and mine. And she said, girl, she said, you need to take a break. You need 2 weeks off at the end of the year. She said, when next year you will say thank you to me. It'll be the only good piece of advice you think you're going to have ever taken from me. And I'm like, well, except for that you taught me everything I know about publishing, but yeah, okay. So that time, having that space.
Oh no, you froze.
I got stuck. Okay, here we go.
I could hear you. That was so funny. I couldn't hear you, but I heard, I got stuck. And I'm like, this little voice came out of nowhere.
That's awesome. Sorry. I mean, well, we have millions of people watching. So, and so, it's okay to, every once in a while, that's millions. So let's do final words, final words, not final words, final thoughts with Melissa.
It totally reminds me of Saturday Night Live. Or no, it wasn't Saturday Night Live. There was another skit. Did you ever watch The State? Have you ever heard of that?
I have, but I don't think I ever watched it.
It's old school, like Kids in the Hall and stuff like that. Like really, anyway, go look up The State. It's so funny. There's a thing where it's like final thoughts with so-and-so. And he's like got a pipe and he's on like the dock and he's sitting there and he's looking around and it's like nonsensical ramblings that he just shares. It makes no sense, but it's in this crazy voice. And anyway, I really feel like your journey gets to be your journey. That, there's things you can learn from watching other people and learning from them and connecting with them, but yours gets to be your own, and it can feel so much easier. It can be so much easier than we believe it to be. And I really feel like it's a decision. It's a decision to go all in. And it's a decision to, like Kyra said, take care of yourself through it all. And it's a decision that it gets to be fun. Just because it's business doesn't mean it has to be serious. It can be a lot of fun. This is your livelihood. I'm going to tell you a little secret. I take off a week, like every 6 weeks. I take off a week.
What?
Because it was a decision. I designed my business where I have a process, I have a flow, I have a way it works. I take a week off. And I'm still doing things. I'm not just all like, oh, I'm going to binge watch Netflix and, have my husband feed me grapes or something. No, but I will still be writing. I'll be writing. I'll be, still working on things and creating, but it's very different. I don't have that week of client calls or, hardcore things. So you get to design your business how you want to. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I went from working 5 days a week to 3 days a week to 2 days a week. And those 2 days are my client days. And then I have other things I do, like Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I do things like this and fun stuff, but I don't think of that as work because it's fun. But my work is 2 days a week. And then every 6 weeks, I take a week off of it. And I've just designed it that way. And it wasn't hard. It was a decision. And when I decided, the universe showed me the way and made the path. So just keep showing up. It gets to be fun. It gets to be magical. And prosperity is an illusion. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Don't let it mean anything about what you're charging, not charging. Don't make a story up about your value and your worth based on those dollars, because you're so much more than that. Those are my final words.
Those are amazing. Those are amazing words. Guys, don't go away, Melissa. But when I'll close it down, but, I just, oh man, I'm so proud of you guys for watching this and being with us and connecting with these ideas. And maybe some of them are just like, well, that's too far out this way, or I can't quite get there yet. That's okay. You don't have to be there now. Just like Melissa was saying, you don't have to have it all figured out or know exactly what system works for you this red hot second. You can just follow this moment of, okay, I got information today and we're going to see how it plays out in my life. And I notice I'm not feeling very good in this transaction. Oh, how would I like it to be different? Oh, right. I have this money belief that's been really stuck in me. What is that? And just start questioning some things. That I think is a really good place to start. But Melissa, do you have an offer that you want to let people know how they can get in touch with you so they can continue this conversation with you?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to share and to be here with you, Kyra. It's so much fun. And then also with your audience, I'm so grateful. Time is really precious to me. And so I'm so honored when people take the time to watch these things. And so I'm just so excited about all the things we talked about. And I think it's really going to go very far for people. There's a couple things. So you can go to my website, which is melissacorder.com. And I have a little opt-in, thingy there where you get a free yoga nidra. It's a meditation. So it's like a deep form of meditation and hypnosis kind of combined. That's in there. And then the other thing is later on today, I have my Black Friday, different things that are going to be rolling out for people that are on my email list. So I have some fun, exciting things only for those email subscribers. And with that, one of them is my coaching mentoring prices are going up for the new year. And so I have a couple spots for that. And I have a Magic Money Miracles program. So if you're interested, you could just always send an email to melissa@melissacorder.com. Some of the stuff we talked about today, we do in there with money and the nervous system and rewiring it and the hypnosis and the NLP that you mentioned and tapping and all these other things. But it's a 5-week plan and you come out of it a completely different person. So
I love it. I love it. Yay! Awesome. And guys, we have been offering the Easy Publish package. If you want to get your message out there in a bigger way and you want to let the world know what's going on with you, it could also be memoirs. It could be self-help books. It could be poetry books. It could even be a children's book. And we're doing that for $9.97. December 1st, it is going up to $14.44. So, please go out there, get that deal because it is going away. It's definitely going away. We were feeling the imbalance. All right. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We're so incredibly grateful. Head over to asyouwishpublishing.com and then also melissacorder.com and check it out. We will talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.